gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with Danelle Umstead. She is a Paralympic downhill skier, a motivational speaker, and she was the first blind contestant on Dancing with the Stars.
Folks, on this show, we like to pull back the curtain on what it really took to overcome adversity. We actually just did an episode recently on how your adversity is your advantage. Danelle is a perfect example of someone who never gave up and never let any limitation hold her back.
Imagine skiing down a hill at 70 miles per hour. Just imagine that. Now imagine doing that blind. That is what she is one of the best in the world at doing. Her story is unbelievable. She is so inspiring. She has a giant heart on her, and we thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and we hope you will as well.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today's guest is a Paralympic ski race champion. She's a motivational speaker, and she was actually the first blind contestant on Dancing with the Stars. We are sitting down with the wonderful Danelle Umstead. How are you doing today, Danelle?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be on here with you guys today, and I'm excited to get started.
We appreciate having you on. It's always so fun to dive into the life, the story, the bio of the guests that we have on, and you definitely have one of the most interesting, unique, motivational... Your story is, it's just so, there's so many different parts about your story. So can you go into who you are today? Who is Danelle Umstead today?
Well, today could be different than yesterday. No. So today I am, I'm still an alpine ski racer, a blind, visually impaired alpine ski racer. I race with my team, which is my husband, who is my sighted guide. And we've been to 3 Paralympic Games and won 3 Paralympic medals. And I'm sharing my message with everybody that it's never too late to start your impossible and that we are better together. So I'm speaking around the world and I'm working on my book right now.
Ooh, so what is your book about?
It's my memoir.
So it's going to be like an autobiography type of book?
Yep. And I'm pretty excited about it. Excited and scared at the same time because, putting it all in black and white, just putting it all on paper for people to just go back and be like, you said this. Oh, wait, what? Did I really?
Yes, that's a very vulnerable... It takes a lot of courage to do that, so we respect that very much. So one of our goals on this show is to pull back the curtain on what it really took to become who you are today. So can you go into some of what's going to be in your book in terms of like your overall story and some of the moments that were really difficult for you to get through that took the most courage?
Well, I don't know how much you guys know about me, but my life just has been a lot of ups and downs, a major roller coaster. So overcome, at the age of 13, being diagnosed with an eye disease that is a progressive blindness, and being told that I would be going blind someday was scary, but I kind of really didn't soak it all in until I became an adult. And I lost first I had lost my mom to a 2-year battle of cancer. And then I had to quit a career that I had and I was very good at. And I was a manager because of loss of sight. And then I lost all usable vision. So I was probably at the lowest point of my life. And I found a new life. I found a new beginning at the age of 29, which most people say, how did you become an elite athlete at that age? And everyone told me it was impossible, but I was determined. I found love through skiing and found a new life, and I found a new way. And I always say I was just born again. So overcoming those obstacles and, finding a new life was amazing for me. And I've met my future husband in New Mexico skiing. And next thing you know, I'm married and he's guiding me down the mountain and we're going to the Paralympic Games. And our first, this is probably, that was like 9 years later. In our first Paralympic Games, the one that everybody told me I couldn't be in because I was too old and there was no way I could get there. We won 2 bronze medals. So like overcoming, I feel like we are all better together. And if we just encourage one another and teach one another that we can do this together, no matter what it is. A lot of people in this world think we should do things alone, but I truly believe we are all better together. And I have been blessed to be surrounded by people who believe in me and want to be a part of my team.
Danelle, when you say, so you were diagnosed with your eye condition at 13, but you said that it took you until your adult years to really understand what that meant. So what were the first couple of years like after they said, this is something that is going to get worse with time?
Right. The first couple of years as a teen, preteen, or whatever you want to call that age, I think it's preteen. I was already wearing really thick glasses, so I already didn't fit into school. Kids never picked me for sport teams. I was always the last one standing there waiting to be picked. But I was really, really good at soccer, which was funny. I would listen for the ball and I would hear the ball fall. I'd see which way everybody was running. And I was actually pretty good at soccer for about 4 years after the diagnosis. And as my vision eventually started to deteriorate, so did my ability to be a team player. And so I ended up having to quit because I was missing the balls and the kids were making fun of me. And it just was all through eyesight, but not through my ability. So I grew up an athlete. So I started going to the gym and I was always just kind of by myself in the gym working out. And I was always focused in the gym. But by 20, I think, so I lost all vision in the right eye first. And even then, I was able to drive. I probably shouldn't have, looking back, but I did drive for a while. I might have had a few accidents. Yeah, I might have had a few accidents, but then when I realized I was putting other people's, as my eyes really deteriorated, I was putting other people in danger, and I knew it was time to not drive anymore, and that was very hard, not having that type of independence. So, I mean, it was just really just every step of my life was a little bit difficult. And as I mentioned, I had a career and nobody's going to believe this, but I had an alias. My name is Tracy Smith and I was not a stripper. I was you're not going to believe this when I tell you, but I was a professional debt collector.
Interesting.
Super interesting. And everybody's like, wait, what? You did what? Like you called people up and yelled at them to pay their bills? And that's not true. So why I love this job so much is it's when I recognized exactly who I was and who I wanted to be. And that even sounds crazier. But I would call these people up and I would hear around me everybody talking like, you better pay your bill, and yelling at all the employees of the company, yelling at the people on the other line. And I said, I never want to treat people like that. And I never would want to be treated like that. Obviously, these people can't pay their bill or they would pay it. Like right. There's a problem. So I would actually call these people up and be like, hey, I'm here to help you. What can I do to help you so we can get this resolved so it doesn't go any further? And I started this new way of collecting and how we can help one another and we're better together. And it's just kind of crazy how it all worked out and how much I love my job. And I ended up being a manager of this company and had employees underneath me. And they valued me so much as an employee that at the time they didn't have stuff for my vision. Like they didn't have technology to support the loss of vision. And so, did you guys hear that?
No.
Nope.
Okay, good. Okay. I was motioning at my front door. I'm like, oh crap.
No, you're good.
Okay, good. So they hired a sighted person to be my eyes. That's how much they valued me as an employee. And I worked with that sighted person and pretty much taught them everything I knew. I brought in the most money of the company for many years. And after a few years of that, even though I felt like we were better together, I gave her all the skills she needed to run that company.
Right.
So I felt like it was time for me to retire. I wasn't able to do it on my own. I lost my mom and my independence. And, just every stage of my life has had some kind of crazy story. It's never ending. So that's a major part of my book.
So speaking of, I read a lot about your biography because there's a lot of intricate details, like you said. Like there has been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And forgive me if I get the dates wrong, but in 2010, I believe you had won a bunch of medals that year, and then you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Is that true? Was that 2010?
Yes, so very true. So after making the Paralympic Games with my husband, and I just can't even tell you how many people told me I would never be able to do that as an adult. And just showing everybody that we can all start our impossible no matter what day and age we're in.
I love that.
Rob and I won 2 bronze medals at the Paralympic Games. Just couldn't believe it, at the top of our game. And then 7 months later, when we're getting ready for a training camp, I wake up and I cannot move my body from my rib cage all the way down to my toes on my right side. I was paralyzed basically. And Rob rushed me to the emergency room. We were in Colorado at the time, and they transferred me to another hospital in Denver. And later found out I had many lesions on my brain, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It took me about 2 weeks to learn how to walk again. And then it took me 2 years to learn how to run again. But the most important thing to me was to get back on skis. And that took me a good 6 months. It wasn't pretty when I got back on skis, but I was where I wanted to be, where my passion was.
And in terms of the skiing ability now, you were talking to us in the preamble a little bit how you're about to go back to the mountain. Are you back to 100% on skis after that diagnosis? And how was that process for you? Because I feel like Kevin and I talk a lot about how your adversity is your advantage if you can figure out a way to become more emotionally strong through all of it. So what is your take on that? And are you back to 100%?
Oh, my 100%. So, since 2010 to now, I've went to 2 more Paralympic Games. We won a bronze medal in Sochi in 2014, which was pretty amazing because that was like the 4 years of going from multiple sclerosis and learning how to live with it. Instead of fighting it and just finding ways to live with it. And then in the following 4 years, we got a lot better in sport. Rob and I people always talk about how much they've won, but we've lost a lot too. I mean, you think about how many races we've been in, and yes, we've won over 50 World Cup podiums, but we've probably lost 150. You know what I mean? People don't talk about it, but it is like overcoming and becoming mentally stronger. And sometimes failure is the biggest teacher in the world and can make us stronger and bigger believers and make us who we are today. So I think that I am who I am because of all the failure. I mean, I'm proud of it because I attempted it. I didn't give up. I continuously tried and didn't give up. So, we are still ski racing today. Unfortunately, last year I had to take the entire season off due to health issues with my multiple sclerosis. I couldn't even ski the entire year last year. So Rob and I decided we would ski independently, and we have our biggest sponsor, Toyota, that backs our entire skiing career and this year, and believes in our goal and about starting your impossible. And so we're continuously trying to get back on snow and be 100%. But like I said, my 100% is maybe 80. And I think we all should strive for a good 85. And that should be pretty amazing. I call it, how everybody says the new 50? Well, this is the new 100. And I'm really, really strong. Like when I'm on snow and I'm feeling good and everything's working, it's great. But I have to listen to my body and be like, some days I have to go, I can't race today, and be okay with that. like it's not my day. I wake up, my MS is flared up, or I'm having a relapse, and I just got to wake up and be like, today's not my day.
Danelle, I have so many questions for you. Just my mind is going all over the place. But so one of the questions I wanted to ask was, our listeners, a lot of them are trying to figure out what their purpose, what their passion, what their mission is. Can you explain what it felt like to you when you got on skis at 29 and you realized, like, oh, damn, this is my thing? Like, what was that feeling like? And do you have any advice to people out there who are trying to find theirs?
That feeling is like no other feeling I felt before. It's kind of like the day I met my husband. I just knew it was right. I knew I was meant to be there. And I know everybody says, oh, we all say that about our husbands. But when I met my husband, I just knew he and I would be friends forever. That's the way I looked at it. Not like we're going to have this amazing romantic love history. But when I found skiing and I went down the mountain with my dad as in my eyes the first time, I felt a sense of freedom and joy that I had not felt since I lost my sight. Like this sense of anything is possible. Not putting limitations on myself. I was the girl. I was that person that said, blind people can't do anything. There's no way I can go out and ski. But the moment I clipped into those skis and listened to my father's words and followed him down the mountain, I knew that there was possibilities in my life and that anything was possible. So my advice would be that fear can fuel you. Like when we are feeling fear, use that fear and fuel yourself to do something different, And also another thought is sometimes desperation, when you're feeling desperate in life, that desperation can lead you to inspiration. Right. And I was so desperate in my life that when my dad called me up and said, you want to go skiing? I didn't have anything to lose. And I found myself saying yes to something that probably I normally would not have said yes to, but I really had nothing to lose in life. And that desperation, I never thought before I was 29 years old I would ever go out on skis. I don't even know if I desired it, but I did know that I loved being an athlete. I loved being active. I loved the outdoors. And all the senses I got from being on those skis for the first time just fueled my passion to live a full life.
Being on the mountain from someone who's been snowboarding and or skiing since he was 4 years old there's nothing like it. It's wonderful. So my question for you though is, you basically told us that at one point you felt like, being blind and being on the mountain was not possible. What catalyzed that shift to where you actually did try it? Because once you tried it, you locked in on it, but what made you try it?
The desperation. I mean, it was just my mother and father were divorced when I was 5 years old. My mother recently passed away from cancer. I had quit my job. I was sitting around feeling sorry for myself. So I retired from my job, lost my mother, and lost all usable vision. And so when my father called me up, he was living in northern New Mexico. And when he called me up to go skiing, I really didn't have anything to lose. And I really honestly wanted to establish a strong relationship with my father. And if it took me going skiing, that was great. I just felt so lost and alone that I said yes to something through desperation. And it led me to that inspiration.
I sent a message to one of our team members earlier today. So we have a big event coming up January 25th. And hopefully we'll have you on one of our stages one day because we're doing 6 events in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
One of the reasons
2020.
Yeah, in 2020.
So wait. I got to tell you something about 2020.
What do we got?
It's all about vision.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
20.
That is big event in 2020. I'm setting the intention now. Let's do it. So we have 6 events coming up in 2020, but I sent a message to our team member today saying, can you please post every morning the amount of tickets sold for our event January 25th. We're 28 days away, and I said that people are motivated by 2 things. 1, inspiration, and 2, desperation. I know which one I'm more motivated by, but winning and losing. And so I just find it so fascinating that you mentioned how desperation can sometimes lead you to inspiration when I just sent that message, not 3 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that
very
is
cool.
crazy. I speak about that a lot too. I do. It's it's that and saying yes to opportunities. Like we got to say yes to opportunities. I mean, we can all do something really great in life and continue on the same path, but trying new things and saying yes to opportunities can lead you to the next step.
Well, it's like, imagine if you never said yes to that.
Right.
Like, how much different would your life be? And it's like, if you're out there right now listening, like, and you have an opportunity to go try something new, you never know when you're going to step on your passion. For me, I got the chills when you were talking about when you first got on skis with your dad in front of you, because I thought of a moment after I gave a speech and students came up to me. There were these 2 students, I'll never forget it, at Clark University, and they basically were crying to me saying, how do I play soccer, which is my passion, when my parents want me to be engineers? They were Indians. And it was just like, I helped them, and we kind of cried together about them chasing their dreams. And it was just like, this is why I'm here. And I knew it.
Yep.
And it's like,
Right.
But if I had never had the courage to go speak, then I wouldn't be where I am today. This was even before Kevin and I got together.
What a shame. What a shame. Danielle, how did you go from the first time down the mountain and having those limiting beliefs like kind of go away to saying like, let me see how well I can do this? Like, what was the journey from overcoming that limiting belief to getting on podiums? Like, how did that happen?
Right. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So from there, from the first time I skied with my dad, which was amazing, 4 years later, now we skied over the years, but I moved 2 years later. I moved to northern New Mexico, and it was 2. I moved to northern New Mexico and took a job at a place called Taos Ski and Boot. And I don't know if you've heard of Taos Ski Mountain, but it's one of the best. It's really an awesome place to ski. Well, Taos Ski and Boot was a retail store located right next to the chairlift. So I asked everybody who worked there if they would guide me down the mountain on their lunch break. And I told them they had to wear this bright orange bib. If they were close enough, I might be able to see them, but they just need to tell me where to go. And
complete stranger.
There's this, guys, they all worked at the shop.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I thought you meant like customers. Hey, thank you for the purchase. Do you mind guiding me down the mountain?
No, you guys, that's even
that's
funnier.
Sales. We're about to hire you to sell tickets.
I'll throw in this orange bib, and you just put this on and guide me down the mountain.
Right.
How about that? Ding, ding, ding. So there was this one guy. He took me at lunch every day, and he's an amazing skier. And he took me skiing at lunch every day. And I would even go up there on days I didn't work and skied with him on his lunch break. And so he really helped me learn how to be a good skier. And then I met Rob, and he was offered a job here in Park City, Utah, where we live. And that was 2006. And I had talked about wanting to be a part of the Paralympics, but at the time, the Paralympic movement was it was hard to find what was going on through the Paralympics. And the movement now is so amazing from what it was then until now, and even experiencing 3 different games. But he moved here to Park City because he got a job and asked me to go with him. And of course, I said yes to this amazing opportunity. And I found out there was a program here that had a program here for disabled people, and it's called the National Ability Center. And they had a competition program for ski racing. And that's where I found my niche. And I didn't move here because of that. After I said yes to moving here, I heard about this place, the National Ability Center. I was like, oh my goodness, this was meant to be. And it's there. I met my coach, Marcel, and I started training. Like I trained, most people train 4 hours a day on the slopes. I was training 6 hours on the slopes, 2 hours a day in the gym. And I was just determined. I just loved skiing. Like every time I was on snow, I felt free. And it's something that I can't describe. I just know it's right. And I feel like over these so many years, you get lost in, the sport and being competitive. But I always bring it back to like the mountain is my teacher. And the mountain has taught me so much to be resilient, to be strong, to be vulnerable, and to just go out there and be my best and enjoy it and take a deep breath.
So, Danielle, Alan and I are both in relationships, and we understand how...
Congratulations.
Thank you. We understand how important a relationship can be, but obviously you have a very, I don't want to say unique, but you have a very different relationship because obviously you guys are together, but Rob also guides you down the mountain. How has that helped shape other areas of your relationship? Because you're the most vulnerable when you're following him down the hill. Your communication has to be beyond on point. Has that carried over to just life in general for you two? Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you are enjoying this episode. We just wanted to give you a friendly reminder of Top Notch Live, January 25th in Lowell, Massachusetts.
If you go to www.topnotchlive2020.com, we are going to have you in that room creating a clear 2020 vision of your future.
Yes.
See what I did there?
I see what you did
8
there.
speakers, 2 Q&A panels, 1 hour and a half for lunch to network. Going to be fire.
Everybody says that 2020 is going to be their best year yet. It is only going to be as good as you make it. Help us help you make it the best year yet.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Absolutely. People always said to me that, oh, you have your husband in front of you guiding you, so it must be easy. And if anybody is listening out there, it's probably 100 times harder. You want to be like, no, don't tell me what to do. No, I'm just kidding. But that trust was not like automatic. It wasn't. And mostly me with the way I grew up, like my parents were divorced. I didn't grow up around men. My father was around, every other weekend and that kind of thing. And men, I didn't trust very often. So Rob and I had been in many relationships. That sounds hoary. I've been in a few relationships.
Hoary.
Is hoary a word?
I was going to say.
That even a word?
It is now.
You're good. You're
Horish.
good. There you go.
Slutty. Whatever. I put whore and slutty together. Hoary. Anyways, it was that trust had to be built, and it has to be built no matter what type of relationship in business and in life and in love and in sport or whatever it may be, in teamwork. I mean, no matter what, you have to build that relationship of trust. And that does come through constant communication, constant reevaluation, constantly changing things up and trying new things together as a team. And I always tell people that in sport helped our relationship. Like our marriage is so solid and so grounded and so amazing because of what we learned in sport together as a team.
I think that's what a relationship is. It's being on a team. And you guys have had to be on a team. And it's like better together is your motto. So it's awesome that you're leading by example in that. So
Thank you.
One of the questions that popped into my mind while you were saying that is Kevin and I, a long time ago, did an episode that never saw the light of day, but we asked, what's the most important thing in an intimate relationship? And he believes it's communication.
Yeah.
I believe it's trust. And then we've come to realize that those two are completely linked.
Absolutely.
What's your take on that in your relationship?
It's exactly trust and communication. I mean, it's the most important thing. That's all. If you have those two things, you will have a solid relationship in my mind.
And they're totally connected because if there's bad communication, there will be bridges in trust. And if there's bridges in trust, that will leak into worse communication.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Danielle, so obviously you've had a whole bunch of different things, like being on podiums. You're on Dancing with the Stars. I want to talk about that a little bit as well. But out of this entire journey, what are some of the moments that stick out the most? Like, I'm sure the podiums, that type of thing. But is there anything that nobody ever saw that meant more to you than anything else did? I know it's a strange question, but
that nobody saw.
Maybe it wasn't like the shining moment of stepping on the podium? Maybe it was something you did by yourself.
Oh, well, there's so many moments, like taking a step after being paralyzed, learning how to run 2 years later, like learning how to run again. That took me 2 years.
Yeah.
I couldn't run after being paralyzed, from multiple sclerosis. Like it was just so much. My brain doesn't connect with my body. So many milestones from going, I call it partially paralyzed, but my brain and body not connecting on the right side. Like there were so many milestones that people didn't see that I was getting through, and I'm still getting through today. Like sometimes my speech is affected from my MS. I can't speak words out and I'll have to describe them. And sometimes just the word won't come out of my mouth. So there's so many milestones that people haven't seen that I've overcome with that. And, even with my eyesight and learning how to use my surroundings and trusting a guide dog, like there's so much.
Oh, who's the cutest, by
so
the way?
much.
If you're talking about the
my
dog
gosh.
on your Instagram, he's so adorable. I had a yellow lab growing up. Oh, so
Yes.
good.
She's amazing. She's amazing. I actually had to not let her be in the room with me while I'm talking to you guys because her nose would probably be in the way and like, what you doing? You need me? You want my help? The whole time, like, I love you.
She is the cutest.
Are you talking to me?
What was the lead up to you being on Dancing with the Stars, and what was that experience like? Obviously, you're used to performing in front of a lot of people and, having a lot of people watch you do your thing, but that's a whole nother level of vulnerability. What was that like?
I like how you use the word because that's what I say about Dancing with the Stars. I was the most vulnerable I've ever been in my entire life on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Little setback in 2007. I had my son, and he was a newborn. He was born in July of 2007, and this was in the fall. And I was standing like 4 inches away from my television screen because I was almost completely blind. And I'm holding my son, and I'm watching Dancing with the Stars because I've always loved that show. I've always wanted to dance. I've always and I didn't know what I loved about dance because I just love the freedom of moving your body and through music. And I didn't realize how detailed that is. But I remember her saying out loud to my TV screen with my newborn baby in my hand that I wanted to be the first blind contestant on Dancing with the Stars. And 11 years later, I got the call and asked to be on Dancing with the Stars, which I found to be unbelievable. I was like, wait a minute. I threw it out to the universe. Was there a camera? What's going on? So being put on that show, I didn't say yes right away, because I needed to make sure it was a good fit for not only me, but my family. That's something we partake as a team because that means I'm going to leave my family and I'm going to be doing stuff that we're normally not doing together. So we all agreed it's something that needs to be done because it was a dream of mine. And they sought me out, which was so amazing. It's not like I sought them out. But the hardest part was like, oh, now I'm going to have a new partner, a new teammate, somebody new I have to trust. And I'm not going to have all these years to gain this trust from this one person.
Right.
And I remember meeting my dance partner, Artem, and he was like, so I've never taught a blind person before. And I'm like, well, so I've never danced before. And I'm like, so where do we go from here? And
now what?
we had to, yeah, exactly. And we had to figure it out together. We had to figure out what worked for us. And we had a lot of trial and error, and it wasn't easy, and a lot of practice, which I feel as though we needed more, but I'm a little OCD like that. A lot of communication and a lot of trust, but the night of the first dance, the dance to my power song. So music motivates me. It creates me a picture. I find music to be one of the most motivating things for me. And Rise Up by Andra Day is my power song. Like it is the most beautiful song. I listen to it every day. I get up, I get motivated, and I go about my day. And I use other songs to motivate me for other things. But So I was dancing to that song. My first dance was to My Power song. And I asked for that. It's the most beautiful song. And if you haven't heard it, listen to it.
We're going to rock out after this.
For sure.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and listen to the words, because then you're going to get it. You're going to get it after talking to me, and then hearing the words of that song, you're going to be like, oh, yeah.
That will be your come-up song before stage in 2020. And 2020 is about vision and having a clear vision for your future.
Exactly.
I can see it already. Intention is set.
Yep. Intention is set. I've been using that one. I like it. So where was I at? Okay, so that Artem and I were doing that first dance, and so the very beginning of the dance, as I'm standing on stage, I was standing there by myself waiting for Artem to come up the stage. And in that moment, I was allowing myself to be vulnerable. And I wasn't scared. I was just vulnerable. Everybody could see me for who I was right there in that moment before Artem got there. With, I don't know how many people watch this show, million, I don't know. A lot of people watching. And it allowed me to be vulnerable to write my book. Like that moment, that very specific moment was the moment I allowed myself to be more vulnerable. I'm always hiding behind a helmet or ski gear and trying to be my best, skiing behind my husband, but here's a moment I'm standing on a stage by myself, allowing myself to be me. And it was a really beautiful moment for me. And dance was so amazing. And when it leads up to the ending, I'm pissed off and still angry about it all. I don't know if you guys heard how we went out on that show.
I did not.
It's not cool.
I'll have to do
so not cool.
some research and lobby for you.
Yeah,
we'll have to get you back on for a second try.
Revote.
I know.
Revote.
So
revote. Exactly.
So what happened is, everything at the time was done by online votes and phone votes. And the night that we went out, they had a glitch in their phone system, and so they didn't count the phone votes, and we went out because we didn't have enough votes online. And then I got millions of messages from elderly people, people with disabilities, just all kinds of people like, wait a minute, all I voted was by phone. I'm so sorry, and it was just this big controversy, and it was, so they're separate. Yeah, it was awful. So, yes.
So they
need to bring me back.
They do.
They do.
We're going to do an episode on the power of intention. We did one last year, actually, just around the new year. But I have a philosophical question for you. Do you think you ever would have graced the Dancing with the Stars stage if you didn't set that intention when you were sitting in front of the TV that day?
Absolutely not.
What do you attest that to?
I mean, because it's something, I don't know, because it's the same about the house I bought here in Park City. I imagine myself on that stage. I imagine myself being on Dancing with the Stars. I imagine myself being a part of that. So I need to put the power and intention for me to go back. I just thought of this. Sorry. It was But the same happened with my house. Have you read The Secret? It's kind of the same thing in the book where they say the power and intention. Well, I did that with my house. So I really wanted this house that's a block away from the house I bought. And I saw myself living here, and I made my husband drive by that house that's a block away and said during holidays, and been like, this will be my house one day. And we ended up buying a house a block over, and it's 100 times better. But I feel like I set the power of intention that, like, I thought of myself living there. I thought about the neighborhood, and I did the same with Dancing with the Stars.
Did you for speaking as well?
Yes. And speaking was hard. Like, I mean, you're a speaker too, right?
Yes. Both of us.
Yeah, both of you guys. So, I mean, that was hard because in the beginning I found myself like, I want to do this, but I wasn't really great at it.
Oh, yeah. That's how I've started everything.
I mean, right. Like, I mean, to get better, you got to put yourself out there and do it. But I find myself imagining myself on stage and imagining myself spreading a message that I want to spread. Yes, I feel the same way that way.
We have to set more intentions. So Kevin and I last year, was it last year when we figured out you set an intention. One of our mentors, he's actually in the pre-roll of this podcast. His name's David Meltzer. You may know of him, but he says set an intention, then pay attention, and then what a coincidence it will happen. And so Kevin and I have gotten a lot better at setting more intentions. This time last year, we wrote out our intentions for 2019, and we're actually about to do an episode to see which ones came true, and then which ones we didn't pay enough attention to. I have a question for you. So right now, Kevin and I, as we've mentioned, we have a big event coming up January 25th, and it's crunch time. We're in the pressure cooker, and we're going to fill that room, and it's going to be incredible. You've spent a lot of your life, and you mentioned before Dancing with the Stars, right? You met this person who you've never met before and who has never taught a blind person how to dance before, and you're like, okay, let's figure this thing out. And then you mentioned how you didn't feel ready. A lot of your life, it seems like, has been in the pressure cooker leading up to a big event, whether it's, eventually skiing or this Dancing with the Stars thing. From your perspective, I think the pressure cooker is necessary for growth. And being under pressure makes everything more challenging, but also forces you to become better. What's your take on that whole thing, and what's been your experience in the pressure cooker?
I live in the pressure cooker.
It seems that
way. Actually, I do.
Right.
And I'll tell you another little thing. Everybody says I have a pressure cooker temper too. Like I'll sit there and it takes a lot to make me blow, but when I blow, I blow.
Some people implode, others explode. I'm the second one for sure. It's very easy. It takes a lot. Right. It's hard to be strong and warm simultaneously. We did an episode on that. Yeah.
So, yes, I literally live in the pressure cooker, and I need it. I need it in my life. It drives me. It makes me stronger. It makes me more passionate about what I'm doing. I strive under pressure.
I do as well. Why do you think that is? Because I don't know if everyone's like that. And also, your undying self-belief, where did that come from? Because I've come to realize that levels of self-belief are not always very high. And for me, we did an episode called The Number One Thing Holding You Back. Kevin believes it's self-doubt. I don't. I think it's ego. And I think that's because I have belief in myself and my own ability to create any future I want despite adversities. Where did you come up with such great self-belief from your perspective?
I don't always believe in myself. So I am in denial a lot of the times, but I have to remind myself that I can do things and it's okay to fail. So I'm a little bit of both. Like there's some things I'm like, I know I can do this, and I know I wouldn't even use the word ego for me. Like I don't have an ego. I don't. I just know that if I can't do it, I'm going to go down fighting, trying to do it.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And a lot of the times and a lot of things I do, I honestly don't think I can.
Really? What? Can
so
you give us an example?
I'm constantly trying to prove to myself that I can.
Right.
It's everything. It's almost everything I do.
How do you actually step up? I think that's where a lot of people are. Every single action we take starts with uncertainty. We're uncertain of the results.
Right.
But how do you push through that uncertainty and say, how did you lock in that failure, quote unquote, failing is a good thing? What was that experience like for you?
Right.
It's a daily experience.
Right.
Like I find myself doing this every day, and I'm every day trying to do better. Like every day trying to, not use the word not fail, but it's just a challenge every day. And it's life. Like I'm not embarrassed to admit it. Like I will go down a slope and be like, I don't know if I can do this, but am I going to try? Yes. That's what I'm strong in. Am I going to say yes to my opportunities? Am I going to keep trying until I die? Like I'm going to continuously never give up.
So you'll never fail.
Realistically,
yeah.
The only real failure is not trying, in my opinion.
Exactly.
I've always felt that way too, and I'm trying to figure out like why not everyone has that mentality, because maybe we can help people with that. And I feel like that's part of your thing. Like say yes to opportunities. Like even if you fail, at least you tried, and you won't have regret.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It is exactly. That's why I always say we're better together. Like we have to consistently help one another. Like if I didn't have people saying, Danielle, you can do this,
Right.
I probably wouldn't want to do it. I mean, we need that community. We need that support of each other. Like, we should always support one another, even if, you can go down that mountain or ride that bike. And I don't know if I can. If you're encouraging and supporting me, then I'm going to believe I can.
Danielle, I had a client reach out to me last night, and someone very close to them and their family was doubting them and very upset with them because they're trying to carve their own unique path. And what I tried to explain to her in an audio message this morning was that imagine you're trying to, sail toward an island that no one else can see. And if they love you and they believe you're headed in the wrong direction, they're going to take wind out of your sails. But if they have their own island that they're sailing toward, they believe in islands, and they're going to put wind into your sails, but maybe help guide you along the way. You've had a lot of naysayers, a lot of people that said you couldn't be on a podium one day because you're blind or because of other adversities. How did you overcome that? Because obviously you've had people who have put wind into your sails, like your husband.
Right.
But what about the people that took it out? How did you block that out?
Well, a lot of sports psychology, but
right.
No, but which is, it's mindfulness, it's being strong in your mind. And sometimes when people speak to us, they're not necessarily being completely negative, but just trying to find the positive out of what they're saying, or completely ignoring them, like, and just completely ignore them. But you have to write down, like, setting your goals and writing. I'm a girl of writing pros and cons down, and I do it quite often. Like, I'm a blind girl that has all these pieces of paper somewhere in the house with all these pros and cons, like, in everything I do. Like, and I always, no matter what it is, see more pros in things. Like, I'm always looking for the better in people and in things and in space. And people constantly were telling me that, no, it's not impossible. If a 30-year-old woman walked up to you today and said, I want to become an Olympian, would you believe her? Like, would you believe she could do that? No.
I would. I would, but I also think people think I'm delusional, though, about people and their, like, I believe in people and human potential so much.
Right.
Right.
Alan's the reason I'm doing, like, without Alan, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. We're 275 episodes in, and
Wow.
Alan and I have been together for 250 of them.
Yeah.
So without him, I wouldn't be here either. So, but he is delusional at times, for sure.
And that's the problem, right? You look at my track record, it's like
He hit or miss.
Yeah.
Hit or miss.
Do we call ourselves delusional, or do we call ourselves just dreamers?
I like that better.
right.
Yeah.
I'll
We're just
call you a
dreamers,
dreamer, and I'll call
Yeah.
Alan a delusionist, because I like you, Danielle. So we're coming to the end here. I want to make sure that Alan and I each have a question that we like to ask every guest, and then we'll give you time to tell the people where they can find out more about you. So my question is simple but deep. I think that we have 90, 100, 150 years on this planet, depending on, how well you take care of yourself. But we get to do with that time what we please, as long as we chase those dreams. And it's clear that you're chasing your dreams and you're helping to inspire so many other people. But what is your one big goal? What do you hope to do with your life before you leave this life behind?
Well, when I was a little girl, I used to say I wanted to change the world. I wanted to make the world a better place. So as I speak and as I write my book and as I'm starting this nonprofit, more to come, ... I just want to leave the mark of making a difference in people's lives. And if it's just one person at a time, I hope maybe by the end of my life, I've affected how many, one a day, or, inspired one person a day and made the world a better, happier place.
You're inspiring two right now.
Oh, I love it, because we're better together.
Yes.
Exactly. I was recently in my notebooks. It was just the other night, and I call it a vortex of influence. And so, like, if you change me and Kevin's lives, and then we change 10 lives, and then those 10 lives change 10 lives, it proliferates really fast. And I actually had a visual in my notebook of all dots on this, and it got to 92 dots, like, really, really fast. So it's really powerful. And then there's also breadth and depth. And, like, the level of impact. But before we go down that rabbit hole, Kevin's like, all right, time. So
Time's up.
my question, right? My question is, so I wear a North Star around my neck, and while I believe we grow and evolve and change and adapt, as you obviously have, I do believe that there's a part of us that is never born, never dies, that's constant, And my question for you is simple. What about you never changed?
What about me? A lot. I love with my whole heart, and I see people for who they are on the inside, just for who they truly are. And I don't think that'll ever change in me. I've always known I'm obviously not a visual person, so I get to know people for who they actually are. And I find that the most beautiful way to see one another. And I love everybody until you make me not love you. I love you. But I do. I love all people. I love all people. I mean, I'm not kidding you. You can walk up and talk to me and I'm going to love you until you make me not love you. And that's all another. And there's very few people that have not done that. I just see life through my heart and it shines bright.
I love that answer. I remember growing up, I would hear people say, I hate people, and it would always bother me. It always bothered me. It never, and even when I was trying to fit in and be like, oh yeah, people suck. Like, no, they don't. Like, I just don't believe that, and I refuse to believe it. Yeah, like some people do bad things, but like generally speaking, human potential is what I believe in, and I always will.
Exactly.
So, that resonated very, very strongly with me. This was an incredible episode. I have no doubt that in 2020 we will set some visions together.
I love it.
Stage together, and I just want to thank you for coming on the show.
Speaking of stages, tell the listeners where they can see you speak, where your website is, all of the things that you have going on, Danielle.
So Danielle is spelt. Did you guys realize this? Did you look at how the way my name is spelt and how you're pronouncing it?
Am I pronouncing it incorrectly?
Oh, how would you pronounce it?
I would say probably Danelle, but I listened to some interviews.
Yeah, it's spelt without an I because I can't see.
Interesting. But you still
oh my God,
go
you
by
guys
Danielle.
are supposed to laugh.
I never know. Even just as a backstory, you texted me a couple days ago and said blind girl problems, and I was like, wait. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know when to laugh because I don't want to be insensitive.
You were supposed to laugh. Oh my God, you were supposed to.
We're the worst.
We're
the worst.
Do you know how many times I called you Danelle, and then Kevin's like, it's Danielle, man. Because I didn't know.
Like,
I was.
There's no I in there
right.
because she can't see. So you'll have to use that for me. Oh my gosh, that's like my favorite thing to say. Okay, so my name. Just go to my website. It's Danielle.
Okay.
But there's no I because I can't see. You got it?
You got it.
Noted.
So it's DanelleUmstead.com and follow me on social media, DANELLE and then UMSTEAD.
Please let us know.
That's it.
Let us know when the book comes out. So first of all, we would love a couple autographed copies, and we will definitely help you promote that book. And if you do any book tours in Boston, we can help you with that as well.
Wait.
Go on.
I did not do the research. You guys are in Boston?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
I go to Boston all the time.
When you come, please. I don't want to try to keep up with you on the mountain, but we can grab lunch or something.
I do.
Yeah.
I do want to try to keep up with you on the mountain.
Yes, exactly. I was just there for Thanksgiving. My husband's family is all from Boston, so they're Manchester by the Sea.
Okay.
They have a place across from the Commons, and then we'll ski up at Stowe and stuff every once in a while.
So we have all 8 speakers up at Stowe. Interesting. I just got my girlfriend a cabin, and her and I are going up to a cabin at Stowe, Vermont.
Oh, fun!
The first week after our next event. But we have one that we're trying to lock down for March 28th. so that we have speaker slots open. So we're going to make things happen.
For sure.
For sure.
Danielle, this was
Okay,
a
sounds awesome.
legitimate pleasure. Like, we had a lot of good laughs. I really appreciate your story, but I truly do think that you are living your life's purpose, because you definitely are motivating and inspiring people through your story, through your action, but also through your character. You definitely are what you say you are, and we appreciate that so very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Love you guys. You guys are amazing, and look forward to connecting some more.
Next time you're in Boston, let us know. We'll bring you to the studio, and we will do this live and in person.
Yes.
Oh, you're going to think I'm crazy once you see me in person, because I'm just like a crazy blind person.
That's okay. We're all a little crazy.
It's a good thing. I love it.
We're all
I
a
love to
little
laugh
crazy.
too, guys. Okay.
We
We
see
can
that,
tell.
which is awesome. Bye. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Up next, Alan and I will be sitting down, and we will talk about why awareness is the key to connection.
So if you define hyperconscious, go to the dictionary, it says acutely aware. Folks, the more aware you are of what someone else is going through, the more you understand where they're coming from, and the more you can connect with them personally. That's what we're going to talk about next.
And we hope you will enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.